Hello, everyone, and welcome to the most important session of this forum. It is, and you will hear why. So, this is the only youth session of this forum, and you know how important that is. The youth constitute 1/3 of our population on Earth, and so everybody has been talking about the present, and their problems. But what we are going to be discussing about, we'll be telling you about the future and where we're going to be and how that affects our supply chain. So first, the ground rules. I'll start by introducing them, and then we also have 3 panel of experts that will join us to come up with recommendations, because it's too important to just discuss and leave. We have to keep something for the future to engage ourselves. And then we have 2 rounds of questions. I'll go the first round, and then the next, and then our panel of experts will join in to discuss. We have Q&A, and also, not to leave out our audience, begin to prepare your own recommendations that you want to give for this session, and then we'll have a wrap-up and closing. So first, I'll start from Nathaniel, from my right, the first person on my right. Nathaniel Gatechiu Muluye is an undergraduate student at Addis Ababa University School of Commerce. He is specializing in logistics and supply chain management. And then I have Ade O'Neill is a trade professional currently working with Barbados Port, and he has a keen interest in social development and youth advocacy. On my left, I have Maria. She's a trade facilitation consultant with UNCTAD, and she's passionate about supply chain capacity development. Then I have Juan Salamanca, who is a master's student in supply chain management at the Universities of Andes in Colombia. He currently works with Plan International, advocating for children's rights and girls' equality. So you can see that we have the perfect mix for this discussion. For our panel of experts, we have Lazaristic, a trade facilitation consultant with UNCTAD, to support us. We also have Jan Reeves, Amy, Director of Sridhar Rampal Center for International Trade Law, Policy and Services, University of West Indies. Then we have Namrata Nadkarni, CEO and founder of Intent Communications. So we'll start immediately from the first round of questions, and I'll go to you, Nathaniel. You are an undergraduate student from Ethiopia, and you represent a very important demographic of young people. So what do you think about use of technology in engaging young people for supply chains?
Thank you so much. And I'm glad to be here and share my insights from Ethiopian perspective. By leveraging technological platforms, young people can better engage with industry stakeholders, enhance their skills, and actively participate in the supply chains. The technology and innovation plays a crucial role in empowering young peoples. Advancement in this area, in technology and innovation, can have a potential to address the challenges and create an opportunity for the young individuals. Advancement in technology and innovation can help in data-driven decision-making. As I am Ethiopian, Ethiopia is well known for the agriculture sector. So the agriculture sector, by implementing the technology in the agriculture sector, we can be more productive. The agriculture technologies could be precision agriculture, and also it could be soil and water conservation practices. When we say precision agriculture, it could give a real-time data to the farmers in order to make a good decision. So that could be one point. And The advancement in technology and innovation could also help in digital platforms like e-commerce and digital marketplaces. For example, in Ethiopia, we are experiencing the platform called Lersha. Lersha platform, it provides one-stop digital service to small holder farmers. So, yeah, it could be.
Thank you, Nathaniel, and that's quite interesting. I just want to add that a little birdie just told me that we have a Fiji government representative that has graciously agreed to join our expert. So you're welcome. Nathaniel, from what you're saying and about agriculture, you drove down into agriculture in Ethiopia and the use of technology, precision technology, and it appears that the youth would have to get a lot more incentives to get into agriculture, and technology plays a critical role in that. Moving on to you, Adi, you work with the Barbados port, and I know that ports are highly technologically driven. So what do you think about youth engagement partnerships and how we can get more youths into supply chains?
Thank you, Dr. Ramatu. First, thank you for the opportunity to participate on this panel. Just stemming from where Nathaniel left off, I am a firm believer that you need mechanisms in place to harness the youth in supply chains and using technology. You have to have certain structures. And I want to use this opportunity to reflect on my first master's was delivered through the Sridhar Frankel Center. They do a program, Masters in International Trade Policy. Part of that program, outside of the teaching, the academic side of it, there's a study tour, a tour component, but there's also an internship opportunity where students would go to a trade institution, a regional institution, for about 3 months, and then they benefit from industry leaders and what's not. But I think it's time that the center goes beyond that internship component and formalize perhaps MOUs and various partnership agreements with the private sector and trade support organizations so you can further streamline that particular engagement. I would have done my internship at the port. At the time, the port gave me opportunities to meaningfully be engaged and contribute to the development of their master plan. And stemming from that internship, I would have stayed on at the port and able to contribute further. Secondly, I think that we can have perhaps youth organizations, but also trade organizations creating youth chapters at the same academic institutions. In this region, there's a Port Management Association of the Caribbean, and I am not sure whether they have any chapters in the universities. Perhaps you can create a chapter at CMU or the same UE. So you can, again, start getting more youth involved in not only port activities, but within other trade organizations.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much, Adi. Thank you very much for sharing your experience with your internship at the Ports Authority. And if I'm hearing you very well, you're saying we need to get youths in, we need to catch them early, and which would be a perfect segue for Maria. And I just want you to share with us, as a trade facilitation consultant with the United Nations and UNCTAD, how do you think we can do that? How do we catch them early? How do we get youths involved? And what's the role of UNCTAD in that?
I love that I have this important role in the sense that I have to say what can be done, and when I'm such a junior representative in my current state. But anyways, for UNCTAD, for now that we've rebranded UN Trade and Development, I can honestly say that there is action for youth that is quite horizontal, in the sense that everything that we do, in a certain sense, it does affect positively youth. And I think that I'm going to fall in the more global aspect of this discussion, meaning that we have to implement capacity building and capacity management. That is what I'm going to be focusing on specifically. And given the fact that education is absolutely central and crucial for, developing this capacity building, that will be my main focus. So, I belong to the trade logistics branch, and in this trade logistics branch, we focus on research, we do the capacity building, and then we also take care of consensus building. So basically intergovernmental relationships. And what is extremely important is the objective behind it, through these 3 pillars, is to improve trade efficiency initially, to create income, and last and certainly not least, reduce externalities and build resilience. So how do we do this? We are very proud within our branch to have the possibility of having several programs that have been implemented and that are possible to follow online. Initially, it is something that, usually when you have trainings for professionals, these are done in person, and us, by creating these and for them to be available online, it really reduces the inequalities in the sense that everyone can access it. So in our case, we have the possibility to implement programs, for instance, as the trade portals, which allows young traders to be able to understand the procedures from start to finish on how they can import and how they can export. So this program, it is not meant for these big companies that already have amazing profits. It's really genuinely based for small traders and for those that can actually benefit from it. So that is something that I'm proud of being a part of. And I have first experienced that as an intern and then as becoming a consultant within the UN. And I'm very happy to be here, and I'm very proud of the accomplishments that we've been doing on that sense. And there's also several other aspects that are available regarding the e-learning courses that we have implemented throughout the years. And once again, this is also, the objective is the capacity building behind it, is to make sure that even youth feel that they have, at the end of the day, they have the same capacity and that they learn the exact same things that other professionals do, and that they end up becoming part of the working force. That is something extremely important also for for us to feel part of the group and not just simply interns or consultants. And lastly, another element that I would think would be important to mention within UNCTAD, because usually we say, what does UNCTAD do linked to universities? And the fact is that there are several accords, and this was speaking with a couple of colleagues from UNCTAD. They have these informal agreements with universities to make sure that they can create the new working force and to be able to find these new experts in customs. So that is also something important to mention. And then we have a couple of other programs. Maybe you've heard of Emprotech. It is basically the idea of allowing, once again, small, medium enterprises and small programs to be able to develop themselves and to get the needed elements to, once again, be able to be fructitious in their trade. So that is basically, I know that I've just given you a listing and you're going to say, what's the point in giving this listing of all of these programs? It doesn't make any sense. But just to understand that from an international perspective, we always think that we have the impression that not always much is being done. We're trying to make sure that, youth is still present on an international level. There's still a lot to be done. We know that, but we have to start somewhere. So at least with this initial first, base, there's something we can work on. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, Maria, for that message. And I think you're right. We have to start from somewhere. It can be daunting. It can appear unachievable, but with everyone here and all the stakeholders gathered the past 3 days, I believe that we should be able to set apart for the future. And then I'll move on to you, Juan. And you've heard from Maria and your other colleagues I know you've been thinking about strategies. How do you think we can increase representation of youth and also empower them at the same time to join supply chains?
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation and be part of the panel. So I just want to start mentioning something that I read. It was something that Dr. Patrickson said in 2007. He mentioned either we take hold of the future will take hold of us. And I fully agree that he's talking to us, to the young generations, so what we are going to do. According to the Council of Supply Chain Management, 96% of the young people are really interested to work in our sector. But what we are going to do, how we are going to involve them, I think that some organizations and some companies have an opportunity to create a generational transition plan. So it's important to have an opportunity to transfer the experience that other people have and create a new workers. It's important to know that the young people, it's not only focused in a good salary. We also want have an emotional salaries. Now we are more conscious about that. So it's important to know that it's not only responsibility about the academia. We need to have like three partners that should be between the companies, the governments, and of course the academia. In other words, I want to say like we are seeing that in 2050 we will face a lot of issues. But if we are not part of the solutions, how can we be part of the opportunities that we will face for the future problems? So subsequently, we will require some financing process to achieve that. Also, I think that's something that we could have. It's a network of professionals. So we need to collaborate between us. We need to talk between us. And it means like we need to try to know how we can share the knowledge that we have. And it means that we need to try to connect the local initiative that we have in our fields and see how can we give some scalability to those initiatives in order to have a global impact. So we have a lot of stuff to do, but we need to start with a first step. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Juan, and I hear you loud and clear. And I've also been thinking, why are we discussing this on Thursday? This session should have happened like on Tuesday, because you need to listen to what the young people are saying. They are going to be solving this 51-year-old problem that has not been solved, and they have to be part of the solution, just as Juan has mentioned. So we'll move on to the second round of questioning, which is basically the same. We want to look at the challenges, the barriers, and how you think that some of these challenges can be solved. Starting from you, Nathaniel.
We may face different kinds of challenges. It could be like climate change and environmental vulnerability related to the agriculture sector. The government, the Ethiopian weather is in the most highlands of Ethiopia. We may face like the floods, and in lowlands of Ethiopia we are facing the famine and drought. So the government of Ethiopia is trying to implement the cloud seeding technology in order to mitigate this challenge. So in order to apply this technology, there should be enough moisture in the air. So the Prime Minister of Ethiopia, Dr. Abiy Ahmed, launched the Green Legacy in 2019 to plant around 20 billion trees within for a year time period, which is around 5 billion trees within a year. So this could help to mitigate this climate change problem. And we may face also other, like the cost of technology. The cost of technology could be very expensive, so the farmers could not afford it. So it could be also another challenge. or even if they can go to the financial sector to get loans, but it's difficult to get the loans. Even if they get the loans, they could have there is a high interest rate, so this could be also another challenge. As one of the panelists from yesterday, Avinash said that the problem is money, not the technology. So this could be also like one point. And we could also face like the technology capacity, limited knowledge and skills in order to leverage these technologies. So we may face different kinds of challenge. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nathaniel. And I believe that some of these challenges that you mentioned are universal access. I know I've heard about access to financing from everywhere for the past 3 days, and it's also affecting the youth engagement in supply chains. And so coming on to you, Adi, what are the challenges that you see with engagement of youth in supply chains?
Wearing another hat, I often sometimes would hear complaints, particularly from private sector companies, that sometimes graduates aren't equipped. They do the degree, but they're not equipped for the day-to-day runnings. And just to segue back onto my original point about the creation of partnerships with private companies, I did trade policy. I appreciate all of the rules in the trading system, opening markets for goods to trade outside of your particular country. But when I came to the port and I understood what was happening in the port, I personally could say I probably was not equipped. For example, we can export pepper sauces to a British firm. You know how much pepper sauces, bottles you would need to export to fit in a 40-foot container? And then you have challenges, can this country, do we have enough raw materials to make the pepper sauces to export? Can we do it on a consistent basis? And I think, like for example, if perhaps industry players, if they would go in and perhaps teach a couple of courses at the various universities, they could also give their insights on how to apply the practical in the classroom. So that's perhaps one way you can address that challenge.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And that's a very practical examples. We need university graduates that are market ready, that are fit for purpose. We just don't need them to have the degrees and all that. We need them to be able to go to the market like yesterday. So thank you so much for that. Juan, do you have, you want to talk about challenges and how you think we can overcome them?
Of course, thank you. Well, to start, I just want to mention, like, it's interesting that in our chains, we plan for everyone, for all kind of products, for all kind of regions. But we are not planning for our new generations. We are not planning for who is going to replace us. So I think that we need to try to start to train those new leaders that we are going to have. It's important that the enterprises and the organizations should be more conscious about what we are going to do. Unfortunately, I think that not everyone have access and a quality education, and it's important to give to them this opportunity. Additionally, as Nathaniel said, we have, of course, technology education, technology barriers in some cases. Not everyone have that kind of opportunities. And in some cases, I'm not going to say not, some people have resistance to change. And our world in this moment is changing. We are facing a lot of issues, and we need to move on at the same level. So I think that it's important that the young supply chain workers should have a voice to be listened, to promote and vote and have a participation in all the situations that we are facing. In the morning session, we saw, like we were talking about climate change and the impact in the ports, but I'm fully sure that not every of our generations knows what it means for us. We are, I forgot who said, but the supply chains are like the blood that we have in our world. So it's important to integrate us in this part. So just to finish, maybe I just want to add two additional points. The first one, it will be like where we are building this capacity. We are thinking to move maybe in one point the global hubs, but we are generating capacity in those places. How is the generation moving forward to adapt to this situation? And of course, in some cases, we don't have job stability in this aspect. So it means like the people will be a bit afraid to take the decision to study or to practice their knowledge there. So it's a skill shortage in the supply chain that we need to try to have. Just to finish, I promise. Unfortunately, I was looking the information about the Organization for Economic and Cooperation and Development. In 2022, 10.9 of youth employment men were unemployed, sorry, and 12.8 of the youth women force were unemployed. It means like we are inequity. We have an opportunity to give some jobs to them. It means like the new generations should have some power. We should give them the opportunity to create with other organizations some solutions. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Juan, and you've heard from him. I also now have had some sessions that we're talking about inadequate capacity, and now we have people that do not have the right skills to fit in. So it seems there's a market failure somewhere. And this would be a good opportunity for us to look at it, but all the stakeholders, universities, government, private sector, how do we prepare young people for the job ahead? We have a very difficult situation, as we've had for the past 3 days in all the sessions, and the people that are going to solve this problem needs to be armed to be able to do an efficient job and build sustainable future. So at this point, I'll be moving on to our experts in the audience, and I'll start from Laza Ristek. You've heard from the youths, you've heard everything they've said. How do you think we can better engage and create opportunities to get this very important demographic in supply chains? Thank you.
Thank you. So first of all, let me start with this. We were all in your position, right? Once, a long time ago, we were all young people. But what we didn't know on our end as professionals in the supply chain is a chain of so many different jobs. When I got into it 20-some years ago, I didn't know, and I have to read it and this is a simplified list. So supply chain includes from the private sector, producers, vendors, warehouses, transportation companies, distribution centers, consolidators, brokers, and retailers. From the business, then we have business association, chambers, and private sector representatives. Then from the public sector, we have ministries, technical agencies, such as agriculture, and so on. We have port authorities, port operations, and then customs. When I got into this, I thought it was just customs, right? From my perspective, it was just customs, and that's where I started. But I deviated. When I found out there is so much out there, I deviated. I went into port operations a bit. I went into worked with agriculture departments, with bureaus of standards, and I started spreading my wings. And that's how really I developed myself. So absorb. My first recommendation to anybody starting in this business and to youth in general, not young people, but youth, because really we should start from even younger, is ask, participate, and don't be shy. I know that when you're young, the natural instinct is you're shy. There's nothing to be shy about. We all learn, and it's a part of our learning and growing experience. So this is my first thing. Another thing I wanted to say is that many of those actors in the supply chain are dependent, heavily dependent on young people. So they can tell you whatever they want, but at the end of the day, they're heavily dependent on young people. Not only are they heavily dependent on young people as people that are strong and young, we have the ITC now, right? You guys, the young people, are the ones that can handle this. Most of us dinosaurs don't know how to, no, really, I'm honest. You know, we can only absorb so much. You can absorb 3-4 times faster than us. Technology is slowly pushing us aside, and it's the youth really that is going to take over, because you are able to assimilate and be the interaction between AI and the human, right? So there is a huge expectation, I would say, but it's on the young people to participate, ask, and we encourage you to force us, because there is so many things that we expect you to take over. So this is my, just to start.
Thank you so much, Laza. And the dinosaur was like, that's so apt. And we have the right people here in the room to help us solve all those challenges. Moving on to Jan Eves, Remy, how do you think we can better engage youth in supply chain, create opportunities for inclusion? Thank you.
Thank you. From one dinosaur to another. I really, you know, thanks for the opportunity, but what I'm going to do with my time is give it to the youth. I think a lot of the times we talk on their behalf, and I'm one who believes that let them tell you what they need to do. The only thing I would say is the youth that I encounter, brilliant students, have them up on the panel and in the audience. I think what they need is time. A lot of the times we don't have the time to do the nurturing. I sometimes get to the end of the year being director at the center. A lot of the time spent with students is by the lecturers, and in my case, one of our administrators. And whilst you're out there trying to, I often put my role as going out to hunt, get the opportunities, and then give it to the students. But what they really need, and we don't have enough time a lot of the time, is the nurturing, is the access to opportunities, is spending 10 minutes with one of them that you can't do as a group. You can just identify one that needs help with something. And where the students are way in advance of us, because we forget is idealism, and we need to cultivate that sense of what's possible. I think after a few years, we become a little jaded because you encounter so many challenges all of the time that sometimes they say, why didn't you think about this? And of course, we thought about it, but we've been jaded because we've tried one thing and had to divert. So I think youth remind you of the possibilities. The second thing I would say is the advantage they have is the technology, the graphic designing, the softer skills that we can't go on Canva and create the posters as quickly, or go online and do, you know, the wonderful graphics or the wonderful posts on LinkedIn. I mean, I rely very heavily for SRC stuff on one of our younger researchers. And I think they have to see that as a skill, not just something they do in their pastime, but really a skill that we don't have. So I think besides the mentorship, and all, of course, I agree with everything that was said about giving them access to more of the private sector, trying to build that into the program. But program is 9 months. You have to make some strategic decisions about what you focus on. And maybe we need to rethink that. But I think beyond these great ideas, what you really need to do is spend time with them, and try your best to mentor. And I really would like to hear from them. I really think sometimes we spend too much time talking about them instead of asking them what they really think. So I'll stop there and cede the rest of my time to the students. Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Jan, and thank you for weighing in on the part of the youth. You're absolutely correct, and this session is not closed after this session. It's just beginning, so we hope to continue to engage more people. You have ideas you want to share with us, you have solutions, you think there are things we should be doing that we're not doing to get into supply chains, please feel free to connect with us even after this event. And I'll move next on to Namrata Nadkarni, just to get your own views, from your perspective, how you think we can get more youths engaged and participating in supply chains.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. I am very practical by nature, and so I have a bunch of practical ideas for the youth. But of course, as I've said before in my first point, which is hopefully going to land well, is we need generational knowledge to knowledge exchange. We don't just need mentoring one way, you need reverse mentoring as well. We need to learn from you. We need to understand what's motivating you, what skills you're using. As you know, she was talking about Canva. I use Canva, but we have people on my team who are like, let's just say a few generations younger than me, and they just fly, right? They're just like, I watched a YouTube video and now I've intersected it with this other thing, and I'm like, oh my God, why? Dinosaur. But we're also dinosaurs that know that climate change is real and that we need to be engaging with everybody. So there is, I think, depending on the companies that you're working with, an appetite to be part of this change and to welcome this change. We are the most welcoming we've ever been to people of all genders, sexualities, body types, everything. So there's more ability to be yourself and to be unmasked if you're neurodiverse, to come into sectors and bring your skills. We need them. What I would say is, in terms of being practical, is, and I know internet access is not a given everywhere, but get online and engage. The most important thing through my career, and I've been in maritime for 21 years, was networking. It was meeting the right people, and opportunities will fall into your lap because you will be there to catch them when they're like being thrown into the market, right? So get online. And when I say online, I'm specifically talking about LinkedIn. God help me. Again, it's where all the dinosaurs live, but the dinosaurs have jobs. So get onto LinkedIn. Don't just post stuff, respond to other people's posts, and what would be most helpful for you is learn the buzzwords that we're using so that you can talk our language to us. If you come to me and you say climate change, I'm down, but somebody else might be like, oh no, we're really talking about something. I'm like, no. Resilience, supply, these are just buzzwords. Everybody knows what they mean. We just need to be agile, we need to be active, but it's all corporate speak, right? Learn the corporate speak. It makes you far more, we talk about people not being ready for the actual work world. It's because there's that translation required where you learn the language while you're in the job. If you can do that before you get into the job, you're speaking the same language and people are going to really, really, really get what you're saying. Secondly, I would say there's being online, comment on LinkedIn posts for other people so that they learn who you are and they learn your opinions. That's part of this backward knowledge exchange. We want to know what you think. Don't be like, oh, this post is great. Tell us why you think it's great. Give us that little meat to be like, oh, this person understood what I was saying and they have an opinion, or they have a challenge. Challenge away on LinkedIn, it's great. Use the list that Maria gave you to find opportunities and to be part of these programs. If you can get onto an international program, it just looks better on your resume. I'm from a developing nation myself originally. This accent is fake. I'm from India. You rebrand. But my point is, get that kind of polish, get into these programs. It will really make a difference. It just opens doors. I tell people I went to LSE and everyone's like, ooh. And I'm like, I got so much more out of my degree from India. It was way more useful. Yes, and also for the people in the room who are employers or who are further along in your careers, one of the things that we're working on in my company as well is we need to make it easier for the youth to fall into our business. I fell into maritime. I did not want to do this. I wanted to be glamorous and in fashion. You can tell from my shoes and my hair, like I was like, maritime. But somebody offered me a job and it was great. We need to make it easier for people to stumble into our industry, and then we trap them with love and salaries and interesting things, and then you become one of us, and soon you'll be here talking about yourself as a dinosaur, and it will be something you're really passionate about. So for anybody else who's here, do this. Give out internships. If you're giving out academic internships, make them really accessible and be kind to people and make them hybrid so people can do them online. If you're a corporation, pay your workers. We do. We're a tiny SME. We're 8 people. We offer paid internships. We're really passionate about it. I would also say, read the headlines, check the buzzwords. I'm going to be really quick. Remember the intersectionality of issues. That was one of the points that you made, which I thought was really interesting about using tech. AI is really water intensive. It is not great for the planet. And also, if you're constantly putting information into AI, if you're in a corporate world, you're probably breaking an NDA. So really think about how everything works. If you've watched The Good Place, which is a TV show on Netflix, I can see people nodding. Everything connects. Everything's going to, you do something nice here, but it has unintentional effects. It's the butterfly's wings. Think about it. You guys are best placed to think about it, right? You have that time. You haven't, as you pointed out, been jaded. So you've got that. Oh, and last but not least, we absolutely get the point that you made about emotional salaries. People want buy-in. It's something employers are seeing more and more around the world. Good employers get it. If someone is not giving you a reason to stay with their company, remember, you don't have to work for them. There will be somebody else. And I mean it. Show your values with your feet. If people aren't applying for jobs, they're going to have to change because at some point, somebody's going to need a vacation. You know, and that's the nice version, which doesn't include illness and death. So we know change is coming. We know you have power. Please use it. And thank you very much. Who's the next person?
Thank you, Namrata. Thank you so much. You've given us so much to chew for this session. We'll move straight on to our Fiji representative. Please, can you introduce yourself and chip in on this discussion? How can we engage youths, get them opportunities, and make supply chains their final homes? Trap them, like Namrata said.
Thank you. First of all, extending our appreciation for this opportunity. For ours, it's more on recommendations. With supply chain increases the opportunity for young people, particularly my focus will be on board vessels. So, however, we need to enhance and promote inclusivity of female seafarers regarding recruitment and promotion. On the perspective of safety and security of women seafarers on board the vessels, ensuring their protection, particularly the separation on accommodation and washroom facilities. And thirdly, for capacity building of women seafarers, equal opportunity be given to pursue further studies on training to ensure gender equality. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that recommendation. If I hear you very well, you're advocating for inclusion of women and women-owned businesses in supply chains. So now we're showing you on the screen some of the recommendations that are coming out of the session, and I would like you to just take a look at it and see if you agree and if there are other things you think we need to include, like the one she just mentioned now. We have to include that about women representation, which forms part of the demographics of youth, both male and female, but particularly we can highlight that just to get it more attention that it also deserves. Thank you so much. We have so much time. As you're aware, we're very good with time management. So we are the future, so we have so much time. We have 15 minutes. So anybody from the audience, you want to chip in your own bit about this discussion, please go ahead. Please, can we have the mic? Thank you. Okay.
Good afternoon, colleagues. I'm Kevin Hope. I'm an adjunct lecturer with UE, trade program, but more so a development specialist consultant across the region. And I was moved by my colleague earlier submission. And I want to just make the contribution in terms of apprenticeship. So my journey as a development specialist came out of actually volunteering myself to a number of agencies or mentors to help on projects, both in terms of research projects, and that took me on different tours of duty. So my recommendation to the young, trade specialists, maritime and others, is don't underestimate the value of apprenticeship, of volunteering your time and your service. And even for those who are here volunteering to participate at UNCTAD, you see the benefit of networking and learning on the job. And that, for me, have led to an interesting journey. And I would conclude to say, currently now as a practitioner and a business owner, it's for us to pay it forward. So for those of us who have had many tours of duty, to really just unlock opportunities for others to follow. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. There's somebody in the front. And also, if you have any questions for the panelists, please, and the expert, please feel free to ask your questions.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Candice Trancoso. I'm from Trinidad and Tobago, and I'm really happy to see that this topic is one in this forum. I'm going to tell a bit about what I do now because I feel as though I am a direct result of what we're talking about. So currently, I'm a director. I'm on the board of directors for our company that does the procurement for all government agencies, and so that's my commitment and service to my country. I am the youngest director to date, and I've been so for a while, and I'm aging out, I think. But what led me there was my direct involvement with the youth. Back in 2015, we did a national secondary/high school tour where we taught young individuals, young children, how to code and create businesses by using the technology to do so. And that led me and continues to into a tech incubator that we created, which was the first tech incubator in Trinidad and Tobago. Now, the result of that is where I am currently. I'm the COO of HeftIQ, an AI-powered platform that supports specifically supply chain, and that came out of that initiative as well. We're based in the U.S. However, my immersion in tech and in youth and in AI and supply chain is what created this. And so when we ask what can be done, I have 2 points. One, we have to take supply chain and tech and all the tools that are readily available to us to the youth. Because as youth, sometimes we don't know what we don't know. And so carrying it to them instead of wanting or expecting that they come to supply chain and then we train them is something that we have to reverse engineer. So creating that pool of individuals from a young, tender, high school age is one that we can do, like how I did back in 2015. The second point is the collaboration with industry partners, allowing them to be part of that private sector that goes to the schools as well, and allowing them to share what the future would look like, including AI. You mentioned training our tomorrow's leaders for the future and what the future of supply chain and e-commerce would look like, and commerce, what that would look like. I think the curiosity that young people have, and somewhat is a bad word, but the laziness. When you think about how not to do a long process and you cut that down, it's no longer laziness, it's innovation. And once we're able to give them the opportunity to do that, we are now living in what tomorrow would look like. And so those are my 2 points on how we can help the youth involved. Thank you.
Thank you. I know I said I was going to give the time to youth, but can I just say something in response to that brilliant intervention? I think people always think about the future and youth and AI and all of these wonderful innovations. But can I tell you, as a Gen Xer, so I'm probably more of the older generation for you guys, that for us, if you want to work with us, and I completely agree that we also need to extend the olive branch and look for opportunities for you all, I think you also have to connect to the time-honored ethics of working hard. Being there, showing up for work on time, being responsive. We don't like when you don't respond. when you make assumptions about whether you have to do the hard work. I completely agree that AI will cut short the time for doing things. You still need curiosity though. Sometimes, sometimes I get work from, and this is all youth, and this is not just this generation, and you think, but I have like a quarter of the time to do the task or the assignment. And the questions I have, you haven't asked them. You have a week to do the assignment. I am looking at this in like the half hour I have. I can see that if you just pushed yourself a little bit harder, you could really come up with a brilliant piece. So whilst I agree with you completely that AI and innovation and all of these wonderful things will bring new revelations and give more opportunities, if you want the opportunities with the older folk, you need to demonstrate also that you will do what it takes to get the work done. And if you can't meet a deadline, you will write to say, I can't meet that deadline. Or if you can't show up for work as expected, you will write to say, I can't show up for work. So none of the newfangled technologies is going to replace the old things that still will make you rise. Because I can tell you, the students who do very well are still the ones who wake up a little earlier, who take that added interest, who ask for feedback, and are willing to take it forward. These are the people you're going to call and say, you want this job? Right? So what I'm saying is, don't get carried away that the new generation of things is going to replace the time-honored basics. In a work environment, we are still going to look for. That's the only thing I would add to what has been said before.
Hi, good afternoon, Christian Kendall. I think a lot of what is being said is correct to an extent. I'll first by saying that I think it is unfortunate that this forum is not being done or was not done on Monday with the larger delegation, because I think everyone in here, as the gentleman said, the dinosaurs, are for the young people. I don't think there's no person in here that is not for the young people. It really goes down to, I think, mentorship. As my colleague from the port said, it should not boil down to not being equipped. I think time gone by, when I listened to the older generation, they were not qualified for a lot of the positions that they end up getting. They did not have the education, they did not have the experience. What there was a spirit of community that was in the companies that was passing on the knowledge from one person to the next person. I feel like that has gone, that has disappeared. And a lot of young people feel that way. Now, today, you have jobs and you're being told you need this degree, this degree, this degree, 20 years of experience. Where are we getting the 20 years of experience? Because by the time you get all the degrees, you're already taking up a large chunk of your time. And you also have to work jobs that you don't want to work because the degrees are now very expensive. It has gotten really, really hard, you know? So I think that we have to have that understanding, and I think everything has to work holistically. We can't talk about putting young people, and I think I do commend the government of Barbados for reinstating free tertiary education. But after the free tertiary education, where are we going? Because now the pension age keeps rising and rising. So you have persons who have no choice. No, the older generation has no choice but to stay employed and is not making room for the younger generation. So we have to look at policies all across the board in order to equip. And for me, it's not just about putting a young person in a seat. And I want this to also be not to young people. It's not also about getting the opportunity because you're a young person. I think you also have to be qualified for the post that you're in as a young person. Like, pardon me? Or trained, correct. Keep training, exactly. Keep being trained. And while I understand my former lecturer, Mr. Hope, down in the back, saying to volunteer, most of my life I have been volunteering, but volunteering does not pay bills. You know, and it's not the same economy. Well, I understand it, it's not the same economy today as it was again times gone by. And I think we need to look at things that way so that we have a greater appreciation for each other. And as Dr. Remy said, and she's absolutely correct, this wonderful director that we have at SRC, but that we have to exchange the knowledge. But we also have to understand too, not all young people are the same. I don't like social media at all. Whether it's LinkedIn, WhatsApp, Instagram, anything like that. I'm strictly face-to-face, email, phone calls. I'm more on the older side as it relates to that. But the final point I'm going to make is a point that my colleague here mentioned when Dr. Remy was talking in terms of the exchange. Yes, it's about the exchange, and it's about the respect, but the respect goes both ways. Oftentimes, we send out a lot of applications, and we do not hear back anything from companies. We do not hear back anything from organizations. So that has to also change so that, one, we know we've been rejected. And let us know why we've been rejected so that it is something that we can work on and know what we need to work on to improve.
So we'll take just one last person, and then, of course, we can continue discussions.
And just one thing, duly noted about the fact that this should have been in the plenary on day one. We'll rectify that for the next forum.
Hi, so good morning, everybody. My name is Kimar Hines, international business student at UE. And what Christian said, you know, a lot of it is really true. But to go further, I see myself as, you know, a problem solver. And, you know, a lot of the problems, especially in small and developing states, you know, stem from, I hate to delve into, you know, the topic, but post-colonial syndromes. And, you know, some of the things that we as young people have developed, and, you know, it has gone on for generations and generations, there's a level of imposter syndrome where we feel as though we're not good enough, we will never be capable enough because, you know, it is also a inherent trait within SIDS. We get everything from outside, so everything from outside always seems better than what is inside. So then, you know, when we look at people in current roles and in current positions, we always draw this line and say, you know, we may never be able to get there, or we may be incapable of achieving such. And so, like, you know, accepting that opportunities are there, but whoever goes out and grab the opportunities is usually the person who would benefit from the opportunity. We need to see ourselves capable of doing such. And as Remy said, we need to become a lot more marketable, right? Because the reality is that even persons in current roles, they still are going through a continuous learning process, regardless to 20 years, 30 years experience in a particular field, learning never stops, right? So as Christian said, again, the 20 years experience needed to fill a role. Well, for me, that's fluff, because you could be 50 years in a position and then still learning something new, because the world is rapidly evolving. It's always evolving. So even in training, right? As we say, currently enrolled in degrees, we need to continuously make ourselves a lot more marketable, whether it's by volunteering. As Christian said, paid internships will always be good, because, you know, people need to still eat. A little corned beef, a little tuna, that will go along here. We need to eat, and we need to maintain ourselves in order to continuously do well as well, right? So I'll end it there.
Okay. So, thank you. Thank you so much for all the very interesting discussions that this session has generated, but unfortunately, we don't have time anymore. I have to wrap up now. I thank all my panelists, Nathaniel, Adi, Maria, and Huwan, and our expert, Jam Namrata and Lazar, for weighing in on these very critical discussions. I thank all the audience for supporting the youth and also giving us solutions that you think can help increase participation. And I look forward to continued discussion. It doesn't end here. This is just the beginning. Thank you so much, and have a lovely afternoon. Yeah.
Can I make a move? Because the spirit of this room is contagious.
Good.
Can we make a recommendation coming out of this session? And Matthew Wilson, who's on our board at the SRC, a big supporter, he said once at a board meeting that all our SRC events should
Sorry, I just want to make a recommendation that to add to this youth session.
Okay.
And my board member, Matthew Wilson, Ambassador of Barbados to the WTO, made a recommendation that all the SRC events should always have one of our MITP alum. We haven't always done that, but we try. And I'm wondering if you see the big sessions at the start of this global UNCTAD supply chain forum, maybe all of these sessions should be represented by a young person. And it's just, you know, somebody who's 32 or younger, I would say. We don't have to say it's the youth representative. It doesn't have to be that obvious. But it's a recommendation to ensure that an attempt is made to always, especially on these high-level panels, find somebody who's 32 or younger, if that's how we define youth. Let's put it to 35 or younger. So that there's actually a representation.
I think it's an absolutely amazing suggestion. I think we should do it. I just think it's really sucky that we're being pitted against each other. We're still trying to get women on the panel. And now we're just like, okay, so we'll need like the one token person who'll have to be a young woman who is also a person of color, who is also, and I'm like, tick, 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 tick. And I'm like, come on, man, we should have new people having these discussions. And also, we don't all have to be on the damn panel. Like, there's a fair bit of discussion that happens with us and happens with companies. But I absolutely agree. And I'm going to be that person. I'm really sorry to address your point. Not being online is an absolute choice that is valid to make. It does limit your choices, though. And online digital, especially if you want to interact, it will be different. There is no replacement for face-to-face, and there is no replacement for work ethic or respect in a workplace. But you also gotta, I mean, we all know hustle culture. You gotta hustle to get them jobs.
Thank you so much. We'll have our recommendations outside, and that will be our call to action. And thank you so much for all your participation in this event, and enjoy your afternoon.